tonight I want to welcome everybody to Connecting the Dots, from person-centered planning to participant direction. And truthfully, it's a little bit of a long road if you do it right. And I'm hoping that we do it right, because it really is important that we take the steps that we need to take so that it all comes together. It all plays into the pieces, play into each other. And it works best to create a great opportunity for the folks who are receiving services.
Who is the PA Family Network? PA Family Network is a program for Vision for Equality, funded by the Office of Developmental Programs. Family members and individuals with IDD across the Commonwealth. We also have all diverse life experience, sometimes medical complex needs, to all ages and different groups. Some are life course ambassadors or soon to become life course ambassadors.
Right. And it's important to know that because we are funded by the Office of Developmental Programs through Vision for Equality, our information is vetted by the Office of Developmental Programs. So the information that we share is as up to date and accurate as we can get it. And I think it's also important to mention that IDD is intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Yes, sorry for the acronym.
That's all right.
What does the PA Family Network do? We make workshops for families. We offer technical assistance to ODP on the ISAC board. And we mentor families.
Too, right? And we sit on different committees too, right?
Yes, of course. Mentor families and their loved ones. Advise team mentoring with a family advisor and advisor with IDD.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
Team mentoring works is like I've been doing a couple of team mentorings where it's me as the advisor with autism. Also, I have a family advisor there that helps the family guide them through the life course tools, like figure out what they want or what they want to do for the rest of their life.
It's a peer-to-peer thing, right?
Yes.
And that last bullet?
And last bullet, system navigation and developing, identifying supports and services.
That's a
Basically,
big piece of what we do, right?
Yeah, of course.
So for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, IDD, the role of family is unique and often central in the support and care provided across the lifespan. Family members play key roles in identifying and securing opportunities for their family members to participate in meaningful ways within their community and ensuring access to self-determined lives. This came from the Wingspread report in 2011. And the reason that we mention this is because it is important that we look at family. And by when we talk about family at the PA Family Network, we're going to mention this several times. We're talking about the individual and whoever they choose as family, whether it's mom and dad or aunt and uncle, or even, staff that they've come to love because they've been with them for a long time, or good friends. Family is who helps identify what is needed and helps an individual participate meaningfully. And this is why we do what we do. We help people navigate and ensure this access, because it makes things much more meaningful.
What are we here to talk about today? We're talking about today is the importance of person-centered planning, the impact of a person-centered planning on the ISP, individual support plan, how a person-centered ISP can influence services and support under participant direction, also known as self-direction.
And I think for those of you who aren't familiar, and some of you may not be, a person-centered plan, person-centered planning is something that we're going to talk about a little bit more in a few slides. So if you're not really familiar with that phrasing, we will get to that in just a couple of slides. Do you want me to do this one, Gabe?
Sure, since this is a lovely picture of him.
Okay, so this again is another picture of my son Billy and his girlfriend, because this was one of his most important life goals. He has 5 brothers. They all have significant others. To him, this was one of the most important goals of an everyday life, was to have somebody that he was really important to. So when we talk about how to live a truly self-determined everyday life, we're talking about things that someone enjoys, things that are important to them, things that they care about. And what we're talking about with person-centered planning is making sure that that person is front and center in all of those plans, and that that life is what they want it to be in the best possible way, and that their health and safety, of course, is in consideration, but that we take all of their dreams and desires into consideration to the best of our ability, and that we do our best to make it work through self-direction if that is our choice. So that's what we're going to talk about for the next 2 hours. We're going to talk about how to put all those pieces together and make that work. So this is a disclaimer. This workshop is an overview, and it's not meant to be a complete training on participant-directed services. Before you choose PDS, participant-directed services, a person should discuss options with their supports coordinator. Your supports coordinator is very important to this process, and refer to the Office of Developmental Programs waiver documents and regulations for a more complete understanding of the responsibilities of this method of service delivery. It's not an easy process, but it offers the most creative opportunities. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. So getting started. Participant direction, which is also called self-direction, is a great option for many families and individuals living with an intellectual disability and/or autism. But first, let's clarify exactly what we're discussing here today. So in order for you to talk about self-direction, you have to have a waiver. And the waivers that we're going to be discussing are the Office of Developmental Programs waivers, and specifically 3 of those waivers. So the waivers that we're going to be talking about, and we're not going into any detail about these waivers today. If you're interested in details about these waivers, we do offer workshops on the waivers, and we offer them on a regular basis. If you look into the PA Family Network's events calendar, you'll see that we offer waiver workshops on a regular basis. The first waiver is the Person Family Directed Support Waiver, often called the PFDS or the Little Waiver. It has a $41,000 cap. Some people only recognize the type of waiver they have by the amount of money that it involves. The Community Living Waiver, or the CLW waiver, that's an $85,000 cap, or the Consolidated Waiver, sometimes called the Big Waiver, in which there's no identified cap, but like all of the waivers, it's based on an assessed need. Now, sometimes in our workshops, we have people who attend who have an adult autism waiver, an AAW, or who have a Community Health Choices, CHC waiver. What we're talking about in this workshop does not directly apply to those waivers. You are certainly welcome to participate if you choose to, but if you have those waivers, this information, some of this information at least, will not directly apply to you.
Terms and acronyms to remember.
So we're not going to go over all of these terms and acronyms. We have a lot of slides. I mean, a lot of slides. But I think it's important that you have these terms and acronyms available when you go back through and you look at the PowerPoint that you were sent. So here's one page, has some great resources like ODP is the Office of Developmental Programs, in case Gabriel and I forget to spell it out when we see it written that way. AWC is Agency with Choice, VFEA, Vendor Fiscal Employer Agent. We're going to talk about these things a lot today. So when you see these things, you'll have this to refer back to. Again, SSP, Support Service Professional, PDS, Participant Directed Services. You're going to see these things a lot today. SC, Supports Coordinator, CLE, Common Law Employer, ME, Managing Employer. Lots of terms.
Person-centered planning.
So I promised we'd get to this, right?
Person-centered planning is an ongoing problem-solving process used to help people with disabilities plan for their future. Is there anything you want to add, Dinah?
No, but I think this really is a great way to explain it. If you look it up on Google, you can find lots of ways that people define person-centered planning. This made it really great to just kind of center it right down to the basics. This and the next two slides.
Is value-based discovery process that focus on an individual and the person's vision of what they would like to do in the future.
Again, the person. It's all about the person.
The process, page 3. The process is directed by the person who receiving the support. It is used to search out what is truly important to and about a person and what capabilities and skill that person possesses.
And I think this really explains it really well, right? It's all about the person, what they're good at, what they may be not so good at, what skills they have. There's just so much that's involved in this. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to start with, is the life course framework. And you've probably all seen these tools. The one-page description or the one-page profile, the visioning tool, the trajectory, and the integrated support star. And this framework, these are the tools that exemplify the framework. And this is the person-centered planning tools that the Office of Developmental Programs has chosen to use across the system. You'll be seeing more and more of this as time goes by. You'll be seeing it used more in your ISPs, more in the day-to-day talk that your supports coordinator does. You'll be seeing more and more of this in all aspects of the Office of Developmental Programs works. So this is the person-centered planning tool we'll be using for this workshop. And this is the person-centered planning tool that I prefer and that the PA Family Network uses. And altogether, the Life Course Framework has these foundational aspects that work toward life outcomes. And that is, as you can see in the middle here, it's the person in the context of their family. Again, that individual in the context of whatever that family may be. 2 moms, 2 dads, aunts and uncles, staff, brothers and sisters, whatever they identify as family. It could be blood or not. What they do in their life, what pieces they have in their life, the domains. and that is daily life and employment, their social and spirituality, their safety and security, where they live in their community and how they live there, their health, whether they're healthy or not, and what they do to stay healthy, and their citizenship and advocacy and their engagement in their lives. All of these pieces need to be considered in person-centered planning. So many times with our loved ones, I think a lot of times when I'm talking to families, and I use families in that general term, a lot of times we focus on one area or two areas. We talk about what our loved one does during the day and how to keep them safe. And sometimes we forget about these other pieces. It's important to consider all of those pieces. The circle out here, discovery and navigation, goods and services, and networking. These are all what we call the buckets, and we don't have the picture of the buckets here, but if these things are filled, if we can help people find their way, if we can offer them the goods and services, if we can help them navigate the systems, and if we can help them, socialize and network, we can help them have that great everyday life and figure out that person-centered planning. And last, but certainly not least, are the integrated supports that we all use. And that is our personal strengths and assets. What are we good at? And what do we have in our lives that help us? This should say technology. It says knowledge-y, and that's okay. But we all use cell phones. We all use Zoom. We all use Teams meetings. We all use our, smart TVs and our iPads. Those things that help us, reach our goals and find the information we need. Our relationships, which don't just happen to be maybe mom and dad, but it can also be great Uncle Bert, who lives out in California, who might be good at finances and can give us some advice. He doesn't have to live here and do things for us. Community-based services. It might be, things that we participate in for fun, or places we go for coffee every morning. And last but not least, eligibility-based services, which are things like waivers. So all of these things contribute to our life outcomes, and these are important supports. These are important things and an important part of person-centered planning. Life stages and trajectories. I just want to say we're going to talk about this a lot more. It doesn't matter where you are in your life stages, person-centered planning is important. Okay, you can be a baby, you can be graduating from high school, you can be somebody who is, a senior like myself. You can be anywhere in the life stages. It's important that you always be working, following this arrow here, this trajectory that's leading you toward a good life. That's an important part of person-centered planning. This dotted arrow, that's leading you toward things that aren't so good. We don't want to talk about that one in regard to an everyday life. We want to talk about things to avoid with that one. So when you're talking about person-centered planning, it's a pretty well-known fact that parents, families of individuals who have disabilities tend to look at life through certain benchmarks. And those benchmarks are things like when we get a diagnosis, when we start early intervention, when we go into kindergarten, when we start transition planning, when we're leaving school, when we get certain types of behavioral supports, when we start adult life. We look at those important benchmarks as our experiences. And while those are really important, we're not downplaying that that's important. It is important, but that doesn't make up a life. And that shouldn't be the most important part of person-centered planning. Over here, where there's all of these other great words, that is an important part of anticipatory experiences. These are things that we all experienced as youngsters. that our loved ones should also be experiencing. Friends, maybe scouting, making mistakes, learning to say no, chores and allowances. My 3-year-old great nephew was just on a reel for Facebook showing everybody how he was doing chores. I mean, that's an important job skill. When you're 16 and you're getting your first job, you're going to know how to start and finish a job because you did chores when you were 3. That's a learning process, right? Those are anticipatory experiences. We need to think more about the things that are up above that line. So, Gabe, did you want to do this one?
Sure. What do we know? Expectations are formed early and over time. Expectations shape experiences. Expe- Experiences also shape expectations. Expectations are influenced by opportunities and supports.
Absolutely. And that is very true. When you help someone form early expectations of being able to do things, go places, experience things, they start to have that as part of their everyday expectations. And I think that's part of our norm then. It has an impact. Um, my son Billy expects to have a girlfriend because his brothers haven't have girlfriends. So then he does have a girlfriend and he has experiences with that girlfriend and he breaks up with that girlfriend, but then he expects to get the next girlfriend and it just continues to go. But he doesn't go on dates by himself, unfortunately, because his seizure disorder is so dangerous. There's always a staff person not far away. And he is supported to be able to go on those dates with someone. So these are the pieces that go into that kind of planning.
It tells you he's a gentleman.
He is a gentleman. So I'm just going to read basically the orange here, but the most powerful force in changing outcomes for our loved ones are the expectations and aspirations that individual parents and providers and workers and loved ones and friends hold for our loved ones, our individuals with disabilities. And even though Eric Carter did this research around transition, this is so true for everyone that we care for. So I'm running behind because I talk too much. So remember, never be defined by your past. It was just a lesson, not a life experience. So we offer mentoring to help you with that person-centered planning, again, with the 3 tools. And we can come to you, a PA family advisor can work with you, work with your family, as we said, one-on-one, peer-to-peer, in a group, if you have your SC or your OVR counselor, and help you look at what you are anticipating for the future. The reason that we are perhaps a really great choice for this kind of person-centered planning is because we have that lived family experience. Literally, we've been there, we've done that. We come from a variety of backgrounds. Our advisors are all different ages and experiences, and we can meet you where you are and try to help navigate what you might be going through. So, Gabe?
True or false? Person-centered planning is only necessary if the individual receiving services has no idea what they want in the future. Drum roll, please. And it's false. Why is that? Everyone can use person-centered planning. Life Course is valuable for families, individuals, businesses, and more.
I made my husband use it for our retirement planning. There's so many things you can use it for. It's not just person-centered planning is not just for people with disabilities.
And
This is a useful tool.
the life course tools can also be used for anything that you're planning for, anything that you need to get done, like let's just say planning for vacation or getting married if you want.
Right, absolutely. So we're giving you a 30-second brain break.
And
Look
it's
at
a
this
cute
cute
baby,
baby
makes you laugh.
and think about the last thing that made you smile. I think the last thing that really made me smile was oh gosh, we were watching a funny TV show last night, and Billy made a smart aleck comment, and it was so unexpected that everybody just kind of cracked up, and it just was a wonderful, heartwarming moment. So I think your dog is what makes you smile, right?
Of course, and my wife. So the person-centered plan and the ISP, individualized support plan. Why use life course to plan? Life course plus ISP equals an everyday life.
Absolutely.
Amen, sister. The individual.
So
Oh,
I
you
was
got
going
it.
to say, go back one. These should be living documents, all of these things. I should have said this before. The life course tools are not a one and done. You should never just do them once, put them in a file and put them away, okay? Your ISP should never be the same year after year. And definitely your everyday life should never be a once and done. So
No, because in everyday life, everything's going to change throughout the stages of your life.
very well said.
Thank you. Do you want to read this or do you want me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Individual support plan, ISP. Now we got the full acronym of it. Is person-centered, individualized, community-focused, supportive, outcomes-based, action-oriented, detailed, which is very important. The ISP must reflect your needs, your vision, outcomes, and choices.
And all of this, as you can see, becomes from a Department of Human Services bulletin. And I will say, I'm going to look at something here to make sure I don't miss something. It includes all of the values of the everyday lives document, the person-centered planning, and self-determination. This is your ISP it is your roadmap for life. This is a very important document and it should not be taken lightly.
It should be detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Let's merge the light course principles and tools with the ISP. Merge ahead.
So this is a one-page profile or a one-page description. People use different terms for it. It can look any way you want it to look. If you look it up on Google, you can find a one-page description that looks very different. You can create one yourself. I work with a lot of people who create their own using pictures, and that's perfectly fine. The important thing is that it has to have these three components. The first part, well, first of all, it has to have the name of the individual. And it has to have, in that first section, what people like and admire about me or my loved one. Now, sometimes people will say, I can't do a one-page profile or I can't do life course with my loved one because they're nonverbal or they don't speak well or they don't have plans or can't tell me what they want. Well, we use, at the PA Family Network, we often talk about thoughtful guessing because a lot of times you can tell by familiarity. I guess is the best way to say it. You can tell what someone likes or doesn't like. You can tell by behaviors or body language what someone likes or doesn't like, or just by their preferences from the past. So what someone likes and admires. The second part is what is important to me or my family member. And that might be things like anything from, being with my family or being outside a lot to, anything science fiction, whatever the pieces are. This is an area where it's important to give people ideas to create conversation. That can be really a great conversation starter right in that little orange box there. And what are the best strategies to support me or my loved one? And this is where you can put things down like offer choices, ensure choice and control. My son always says, treat me like an adult. A lot of people don't. And that it really offends him and he shuts down and he doesn't cooperate. So treat me like an adult. That's a very important thing. This one-page profile or description my family uses for everything. When we get a new supports coordinator, we use this, obviously. When we go to see the doctor and it's a new doctor or maybe a new physician's assistant or, a new resident is starting or we're going to see a new specialist, we take this so that and give it ahead of time when we're checking in so that the physician has something to start a conversation with, knows where to meet my son at. And this works really well. We use this in the hospital as well. We also use it when we're interviewing staff. But when you're using this in an ISP, look at this. Here's the pieces. What do people like and admire about the individual? Well, you've already got that filled out, right? In your one-page profile. What does the consumer or family think someone needs to know to provide support? You've already got that filled out in the one-page profile. So here's one filled out just as an example so that you have it in your paperwork. We won't go through this a whole lot, but this is a great guy. This is one of the children of one of our advisors at the PA Family Network. This is a picture taken of him taking the lead because he often does. He's very funny and outgoing and independent. And there are important things here about him, not only just what a great person he is, but here's things that anybody picking this up could talk to him about. He likes being outdoors. You could start a conversation about being outdoors. You could start a conversation about Legos or reading books. You could talk about his stuffed animals. If he was stuck somewhere with you, you were watching him for a few minutes and you needed to feed him, you would know that he likes chicken and French fries. But down here, how to work with him and how to support him, give short instructions, do things with him, not for him. And if you try to rush him, he's going to slow down. And as you see by the double asterisks, whatever you do, do not use Band-Aids. Important information for everyday life. So this is our trajectory. This is a tool that a lot of people absolutely love, myself included. And this can be used for something that you want to plan that is one event. When Gabe and Liz were going to get married, they weren't sure about their next steps for their life and how they were going to do things and how they were going to convince their families that this was a good choice. Right, Gabe?
Yeah.
And they filled out a trajectory. And they came to both sets of parents and said, this is what we want over here in our hopes and dreams. And these are the steps over here that we're going to take to make sure that this can happen. And down here in the red, these are the things that could go wrong. And over here, these are the things that we could do that could make it go wrong. So they really planned things out, and it was very convincing for both sets of parents. I have to say, neither set has had any reason to doubt the choice that they made. So what is the importance of a vision? Well, when you help someone create their vision, they create a dream, and it's a positive expectation of the future. Like I said, is it for one event, like getting married, or is it for, here's what I want for my future? You know, I want to find somebody I love. I want to get a job. I want a home on my own. You know, whatever the options might be, right?
Or
It
even
sets,
getting your first car.
right. It's a positive expectation of the future. It's positive things. If you don't have a vision, without it, there is no expectation. You don't have that thought in your head, nothing to work toward. There's no thought of what that future might look like. You don't have anything to drive you. And without it, someone else might determine your future and you might not like it. I've told this story probably 1,000 times, and I'll probably continue to tell it. But when I did educational advocacy, which thank heavens I don't do anymore, many years ago, I sat in a lot of transition meetings, and some really great transition coordinators would say to the family I was there with and to the individual, so do you want to do this or this? And the family and individual would say, I don't know. And the transition coordinator would say, well, then fine, we'll do this. Whereas if the family had gone in there with a vision of what they wanted and steps toward that vision, they would have had something that they could be successful at and something that they really wanted to do. So what is a trajectory? Well, your trajectory, this arrow toward a good life, usually includes things like friends, family, job, fun things to do, a place of your own, happiness, health, all of those positive things that you can think of. A lot of people put money in there, you know. That's your vision. You see that word vision up there, right? But if you stop and you think about it, those are also outcomes, right? All of our ISPs, when people have an ISP, they all have outcomes. All of these things, having friends, spending time with family, having a job and fun things to do, learning to be independent, those are all outcomes. So the trajectory, finding your way toward these outcomes, that's what putting this vision to work is all about, is creating that outcome. The bottom trajectory, that vision of what you don't want, is ways to think about how to avoid problems, how to avoid the barriers. So what is an outcome? An outcome is a final product or end result and should reflect the vision, priorities, dreams, and hopes of the person. It's developed based on what is important to and important for the person. Now, I know those phrases have to sound familiar to you. Important to and important for are part of that ISP. So that's your outcome. What's important to and important for, right there. When you look at, these are actual pictures from an ISP. Okay, I'm not reading all that little type. I'm not going to do that, right? But the reason the arrow is here is to show you there's an outcome statement right here. And what goes in here is what was in that bubble, what was in that vision, that outcome statement. I want to make new friends and have new experiences, right? That kind of thing goes right here. It's right in your ISP. So what you've put together, what you're putting together in that portfolio, those 3 things that I showed you, that one-page profile, trajectory, that trajectory form, and then we're going to talk about the integrated support star. They all fit right into this ISP. So when we talk about experiences and opportunities, remember I showed you the trajectory, and on the bottom here, where it says or not, we had those experiences that families often kind of gauge their life by, you know, when you're first diagnosed and you go into transition and those kind of things. That's what we look for. And then up here are the positive experiences, the more positive things that we think about. That's what we want to do. The experiences and opportunities go in this upper left-hand corner of your trajectory sheet. So essentially, when I work with families one-on-one, we put the vision in this pretty blue box. Okay, we put a vision there, something that we really want to work toward. So for instance, for my son, you know, it was that he wanted to meet more people and he wanted to find a girlfriend. That was one of his original pieces of his vision. So what experiences and opportunities did he have to have in order to do that? Well, he needed to get out more, and he needed to socialize more. He needed to attend some of the local dances and some of the local community events, right? So those experiences and opportunities went there. What would go down here on the bottom, these red areas, are to stay in the house and watch movies, which he loves to do, but didn't get him out and didn't help him find that vision. So the experiences and opportunities would go up here. And that's what we really want to focus on. So I want you to consider it this way. This blue box is your destination. This outcome, that's your destination. Think of an outcome as a destination. So if this outcome is Erie, Pennsylvania, okay, and this arrow is your directions to Erie, and you live off of Route 80, which covers the whole northern part of Pennsylvania, basically, you need to know which direction you need to travel on Route 80 to get to Erie. Because I'll tell you, I live in Northeast Pennsylvania, and if I get on 80 and I go east, I'm heading to the Tannersville outlets. I am not heading toward Erie. And while that wouldn't be a bad trip, I wouldn't be able to see my family that lives out in Erie. But if I go west, I'm heading in the right direction. So think of that arrow as your direction, and think of that blue spot. That's your destination. Down here, this dotted line, these are the road bumps. These are the detours. These are the barriers. These are the problems you encounter. These are the you know, the construction and the trucks that are going up those big hills and going really, really slow, and you're on a time, you know, a time barrier, and it, you know, think of those things. We have to think of ways around those. It's never a straight shot, right? You never get on and it's just a perfect shot. You always have something that you need to go around. So it's about wants and needs and ways to achieve that final outcome. So the activities, look at that. Activities right there. What are the activities the individual would like to participate in or explore? Activities that the individual would like to continue, to begin, or to explore. That's what we had to do for my son, okay? He needed to continue community activities, to begin to go to some dances that he'd kind of been avoiding, and to explore some new activities, maybe like Special Olympics or some other things, so that he could meet some women. And then there are more opportunities here, how often it needed to occur, how was he going to be supported doing that? Who's responsible for seeing that it happens? Frequency and duration, how long we're given it to try before we consider that it has happened. All of those pieces can go in there. Your trajectory and your one-page profile have filled out the vast majority of this. So if you've run out of ideas, your next step is to look at this integrated support star. So this is a great problem-solving tool. So you can use it for anything, actually, but a lot of times we use it when we're kind of like, okay, I need to think, what can I do next? How do I handle this next, right? So we look at all of the things that we have at our disposal, and we think, how can we use these things? So we look at our relationships, our personal strengths and assets, the technology that we have at our disposal, our community-based opportunities. And last but not least, in this little green section are the things that we're eligible for. And the important thing to realize is that we're all eligible for things. We all have eligibility-based supports. Those of us who drive, we have a driver's license. That's eligibility-based. If you have insurance through your work, that's eligibility-based. We all have eligibility-based supports. Some have more than others. Just because you take advantage of these other things doesn't mean you can't use eligibility-based supports. It may mean that there may be situations where you don't need them, but it may mean that if you're participating in community theater that's community-based, you may still need a staff person to go with you to ensure your safety. So it can be a give and take situation. You just need to look at all of the opportunities. So here is a star that is filled out with some examples, things to think about that go in those particular sections. I'm not going to read them all. I included this when I put together the PowerPoint because I wanted you to be able to go back when you are finished with the workshop and look at this and remember what goes where, and to be able to work through it yourself if you needed to. So this is your kind of I hate to say a cheat sheet, but I want you to really remember that these are just some starter ideas. And not, did somebody say something?
No.
Oh, these are some starter ideas that you should never think that this is everything there is. There's always a lot more that can go on here. I have seen stars that people have had to use 2 and 3 stars to put all of their ideas down. There's always something more. And you can take a star, come up with ideas, and then take another star and take ideas from that star and make another star. Just realize that there's more than was just shown there. But you can use services and supports that you identified on this star to fill in these outcome actions for those services and supports that you're going to look at to identify for use, that you're going to identify in your ISP as needs, that you need those services and supports, and you're going to see which of those can be directed through participant direction. And then we'll be on our way. So just one more thing, I really thought this is a cool thing. This is called a split star. And if you see in the purple, like here's your relationships, for instance, and these are your current, the darker pink is your current relationships. Here's future, here's relationships maybe you need to cultivate. Maybe you have somebody that you've met casually at bowling or at Special Olympics bowling even. And you know them by name and you say hi, but you don't really know them. And maybe you'd like to develop a relationship, a friendship. These are the things that you can fill in. So this is what you have currently, and this is what you'd like to work on. And a split star can help you identify what you have in place and what needs to be developed. And that can help really create an opportunity to put things in your ISP to authorize some services and supports so that you can move forward with that ISP. So this is a quick example. And this is a colleague of mine, her 19-year-old son. His favorite thing in the world is trips to the beach, and he likes to stay at different hotels. And he has expensive taste, I will tell you. And he likes income to live comfortably. So rather than mom paying for everything, because she was, they had a serious discussion about this. And this is a rather involved young man with limited speech and some real, what some people might consider barriers that his family has worked with him over the years to really navigate. And he has a pretty fantastic life at this point. But in order to pay for these trips to the beach and to have income to buy the things that he likes to buy, he is a very big fan of Amazon. I will mention that. They came to the decision that he needed to be able to sell his artwork because he is quite an artist and to work at a pizza shop part-time. And in order to do that, to work at the pizza shop, so you can see how that vision, they found out what he needed to do to create that vision, right? To make that vision a reality. He needed to actually have these pieces in place in order to create that vision. So in order to get that job at the pizza place, he sat down with his mom and looked at what his opportunities were. So he sat down with his mom and dad, and they looked at all of their supports and realized that in his relationships, he had Lucy and the staff at a local pizza parlor who were very familiar with him. And that's the local pizza parlor that's down here in the community. And then they realized that he knows how to use technology very well, and he loves video modeling. So he could watch a video on how to fold a pizza box or how to roll silverware and learn it very quickly. He learns very well that way. And they realized this was a skill he could use. So he has the iPad and YouTube to do the video modeling. So with that idea in mind, mom went to Lucy and said, we have OVR and we have support staff through MHDS, through the Office Developmental Programs, to stay with him because of his needs, his need level. Is it possible that you might need help taking care of some of the little jobs around the pizza parlor that other people have to do that they don't really have time for because this is a very busy establishment, like folding boxes, rolling silverware, filling the salad dressing cups, things like that. And they were like, well, yeah, let's give it a try. So they hired him for a few hours a week. 4 years later, he is still there. So using this, something that they had never considered became a reality and became part of his ISP. All of these pieces came into his ISP. So remember, outcomes are developed by the individual and their team because it became obvious that Michael needed a job to earn money to pay for all those things he likes to do, right? Those expensive beach trips and that Amazon.com account. What is important to and important for the person? They should reflect the individual's preferences and choices. Gabriel, you want to read the other half?
Sure. Services and supports are directly tied to one or more of the outcomes that should promote the outcomes by meeting the needs of the individual. And also in the bottom right corner, there are the 3 buckets.
Thank you, Gabe. Good noticing.
Ideas for developing a good ISP. Use life course with an advisor for PE Family Network, family to family, peer to peer, or team mentoring. Keep a copy of your life course portfolio for yourself and have copies to share. Share everything with your support coordinator and putting it in the ISP.
That's really important. That supports coordinator is so important.
And also developing good communication with the supports coordinator.
Absolutely. If it's not in the ISP, it doesn't exist. So that's a really important piece. Thank you for that, Gabe.
True or false? In an emergency, someone should be able to read the ISP and understand someone's needs. Drum roll, please. It's true. And why is it true? This is why the information is so well defined. It is important to make sure it is accurate, up to date, and reflects current wants, needs, context, and health and safety concerns. Is there anything you want to add?
Nope, because
Most important, follow the vision, avoid the cookie cutter plan.
so by this, what I meant was so many times families have said, well, he's basically had the same ISP the whole time he's had an ISP. Or I saw my friend's son's ISP and it's almost exactly like my son's ISP. That's not what you want. What you want is an ISP that truly reflects the wants, the needs, the dreams, the hopes, the vision of the individual that ISP is about. You just don't want something that's copied and pasted, and you don't want something that sounds just like your individual did 10 years ago. We all grow, we all change. You want to make sure that everybody has a chance to show that growth and to show, even if they're little steps, you want to show that. So quick brain break.
Yep. I was going to say that.
That's all right. And the only reason I say this is, look away from your screen for 30 seconds, take a sip of water. That was a lot, and I talked fast. I apologize.
Yeah, she's a fast talker.
I get a little carried away.
When you're passionate about something.
I do. So, I think it's really important that that we all think about using that ISP to its best advantage. I don't know how many of you over the years, if the individual that you support or yourself are still in school, and people have said, oh, the IEP is a living document and you have to keep it up to date. Well, the same thing is true with an ISP. If you need a change in something, if, that ISP said, that, Gabriel doesn't like to leave the house and Gabe has suddenly decided that he loves long distance running, you need to change that in that ISP. Because if something should happen and someone uses that ISP as the truth, then that could cause problems in the long run. So you want to make sure that that ISP is up to date and accurate, and you keep your supports coordinator in the loop for those changes. So we're back. I will try to go a little more slowly.
Go.
Didn't want to switch.
Participant direction. Yeah, you're getting to self-direction. A road to a participant direction, a good person-centered plan with a strong vision, a detailed ISP, choosing participant direction, plenty to learn first.
So what are we talking about when we're talking about participant direction? And we're going to go over some basics because I'm sure that not everyone on this workshop has taken our other workshops. I do want to make sure that you know that everything we've been doing at the PA Family Network on participant direction is going to be downloaded in the next few months on the learning management system for the Office of Developmental Programs. And it is, it's one of those things with participant direction that I think you can never see enough or learn enough. A lot of our workshops, especially the first one that we did, which was called Demystifying Participant Direction, has a lot of resources and a lot of the official appendices and so forth. So it's got a lot of really hard, concrete information. If this is something that really interests you, what we're about to do is just a real brief overview of some ideas, and we want to help guide you through the basics so that if you're interested or if you're just starting in it, that maybe this is something that will help you understand some basics.
You want to read this or you want me?
Sure, I can. So participant-directed services. In accordance with the principles of self-determination, choice, and control, the Office of Developmental Programs has made Participant Direction Services, PDS, available. Participant direction, also referred to as self-direction, allows individuals to have more control over where, when, and how some of their services and supports are delivered. This was taken directly from the Department of Human Services website. When you have the PDF that was sent out earlier today, and hopefully you all have that. And if you don't, please check your spam file. We found a lot of people, it's been going into their junk or spam file. If you click on that link, there's a lot of really great information that's related to this link. You can move around on the site, and there's a lot of really great information about the waivers. So this is a great place to start. And Gabe?
Making the most ideas, creativity, opportunities, and planning. While participant direction is one of the best ways to make an everyday life happen, it has certain responsibilities and, of course, even challenges. We will be discussing how an ISP and outcomes can be translated into participant-directed services.
And my personal feelings are that one of the best things about participant direction is the creativity and the opportunities that it offers. But again, it does offer a lot of responsibilities and a lot of challenges. So it's one of those things where it's the more information you have, the better off you are. So let's talk about
working together. Lots of pieces have to work together for PDS to create an everyday life. And I love this photo.
Yep. So it's like a village, right? It takes a
Yeah,
lot of people in a lot of roles and a lot of working pieces. Every gear has a different responsibility and a different
has a
job.
has a purpose to it.
Right. Everything has a purpose. So we have to move forward with it to get it all to work together, to mesh appropriately so that participant direction works the way it's supposed to, and the individual has the opportunity to experience the life that they want and see their vision come to fruition the best that it can. So are you comfortable reading this one, Gabe, or would you rather I read it?
Yeah, I can read it. I can give you a break.
Okay.
Traditional versus participant direction models. Ugh, try to say that 10 times fast. Traditional person selects provider from willing and qualified providers in the area. Agency makes staff decision, does the hiring, training, managing, scheduling. Primary responsible for implementing the ISP is providers. Participant direction. The person is directly involved in the hiring and selecting of support people. Person directs, manages, schedules, and trains support people. Person directly determines how to achieve the outcomes listed in the ISP. I've
So,
been,
oh, these are
I've,
ways of having your services delivered. So these are two different ways of having your services delivered. A lot of people have gone the traditional route, which is agency, right? So you choose an agency, and in an agency model, you we're going to just use the term family. As a family, you say we're going with agency ABC, and ABC says, okay, you have services from 9 to 3 every day, and we're sending these people. And that's kind of how it works. And the agency trains the people, and you can say, we're not comfortable with so and so, and maybe the agency won't send them back. It's a lot of people are very comfortable with that model. And a lot of people have used it for many years, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. On the other hand, participant direction, it's more of a hands-on. You're directly involved with choosing that. So I want to say that we adapted this slide from the supports broker training that was created by the Temple Institute on Disability and Values into Action, and we want to thank them for the slide. It's very important for people to realize that there's the traditional model, and then there's two different models of participant direction. And we're going to talk about that. And these are the ways that services can be delivered.
so two styles of participant direction, also called self-direction. Agency with choice, referred to as AWC. Participant, surrogate, and agency work together as the employer. Vendor fiscal employer agent, referred to as VFEA, also called PALCO, but it's switching to PP&L. Participant, surrogate are the employer.
So agency with choice, the participant or their surrogate. Now, the surrogate is someone that has been designated to act on behalf of the individual. So the participant, the individual or their surrogate, and the agency all work together as the employer. In vendor fiscal, the participant or the surrogate, depending on who is who, are the employer. So it's very different. The other thing I do want to comment is a lot of times You will rarely hear it called VFEA. You usually hear it called by whoever the fiscal management, the financial management service is. Currently, it is PALCO. By January, it will be PPL, Public Partnerships. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. In reference, an agency with choice, AWC, the participant surrogate is the managing employer, me. And vendor fiscal employer agent, VFEA, the participant surrogate is the common law employer, CLE.
So these are very different roles, and they carry a very different level of responsibility. They both have responsibility. Please don't get me wrong. But with the ME, the managing employer, you're sharing that responsibility with an agency. And with being a CLE, a common law employer, you have full responsibility for all of the employer law. So there are two different levels of responsibility, and one is not better than the other. There are some differences in what can be done, but one is not better than the other. And it all depends on the amount of time you want to put into it, the amount of responsibility that you are interested in having. I think the important thing is you need to understand the differences between the roles. You need to do some research yourself, and you need to understand what can be self-directed, what can't be self-directed, and you need to understand what your role would be if you were doing that self-direction.
Outcomes and the ISP. Thus, there are services that can be self-directed. There are services that cannot be self-directed. Often creativity comes into play when services can be self-directed.
So the need for these services has to be expressed in that ISP, has to be in that ISP. They come from the vision, and they have to be shown in the ISP, and they have to be services that can be self-directed in order to self-direct them. So there's a long process in place, and some of this can be very confusing, I understand, but again, we do offer waiver workshops, and in those waiver workshops, we go through each of the services that are available, and we talk about what can be self-directed, what can't be self-directed. We will touch on that in this workshop, but very quickly.
You want to read this slide, Dana?
Sure. So services that can be self-directed. In-home and community supports, unlicensed, supported employment, participant-directed goods and services, assistive technology, supports broker, homemaker chore, unlicensed respite. This is about half of them. I will tell you that Billy does use self-direction. His grandmother is his common law employer. He does use in-home and community supports. And he does use assistive technology on this list. Those are the two things that he uses. And in-home and community supports, I depend on greatly, because thanks to in-home and community support, Billy has staff that is able to come in during the day and stay with him. He cannot be alone because of the severity of his seizure disorder. And so someone is able to be with him when I am offering workshops, when I'm working with families, when I'm doing my PA Family Network Manager role. And we are able to survive as a family because he has in-home and community support. But more importantly, during that time, Billy is out having dates with his girlfriend and visiting museums, and he's out, he's learning to read, he's doing math, he's out bird watching, he's out doing whatever new interest or hobby he has expressed an interest in. His staff finds a way to make sure that he gets the maximum enjoyment out of it. So we have an opportunity with in-home and community support to ensure that he truly has an everyday life. And that is one of the best things that I can ever express. So in-home and community support is probably one of the most commonly used services that people self-direct. Other things that can be self-directed: companion services, which are a service that doesn't have a goal. So it's just what it says. It's essentially being there, ensuring that someone is safe. So there's no, not like necessarily a learning curve to what that person is doing. Transportation mile. This is something that Billy also uses to get him to museums and to help him learn his activities of daily living, those kinds of things. We use transportation mile. Specialized supplies, home accessibility we have used for an accessible shower. Education support, family caregiver training and support. That is a wonderful new service that's available for unpaid caregivers. Vehicle accessibility adaptation. There's a lot that can be self-directed. And I think that, like I said, if you understand what all these services encompass, I think you'll find that there's a great deal that can be done under participant direction to support an individual. And there's so many ways to be creative with so many of these opportunities. So, keep these in mind. And if there's any questions. So, Gabe?
Benefits of participant direction. Understanding what services can be self-directed is the beginning. Next, hiring support service professionals, SSP, that meet the criteria you set.
So in both models of self-direction, AWC or vendor fiscal, hiring your own staff, hiring and firing essentially your own staff is essential. You can hire people that meet your needs, and that is truly a benefit for a lot of families. And we can, as common law employers or managing employers, we can interview and look for qualities that we like. We can hire outright or arrange for the agency to hire that individual. We can arrange for the training. There's just so many things that we can do. So when you're hiring a support service professional, an SSP, a staff person, one of the things that you can do, one of the ways that you can do this is that you can match personalities. If you have a laid back, easygoing person that you're trying to find supports for, maybe you want a laid back, easygoing person, or maybe you want somebody who's a go-getter that will motivate your laid back, easygoing person. So you have the opportunity to look at those personalities and match those personalities. You can identify the needed skills and abilities. One of the things I know in our household that we have done, Billy has a lot of quasi-medical needs and does not want to be in a nursing type situation. So we've been able to hire people who are not squeamish and not nervous And my mother has been very, very careful about the way that she hires people. And we've been able to train people to work with some of his needs and some of his issues so that we can hire people who are more flexible, and create through training the skills and abilities needed to work with Billy. One thing that we put real emphasis on, that as a family, and my mother as common law employer has really put emphasis on, is finding people who connect with our family. We're a multi-generational family, and it's important, if somebody's going to work in our home, that they get along with us. We've had 1 or 2 incidents over the last decade or so where somebody just wasn't comfortable with so much family. I mean, we're kind of loud and we're funny, and it's, we have 4 dogs and 2 birds, and, it gets a little noisy at times, but you need to find people who are comfortable and happy with your family environment. And you need to find people that you're comfortable with who they are as well.
And we're funny looking too.
And then you need to also have the opportunity. It's so wonderful to have the opportunity when you're interviewing to be able to identify support service professionals who already have connections with your community, and maybe even with employment opportunities in your community. And I don't necessarily mean that they can go out and get your loved one a job. That's not what I'm talking about, but it might be things where they can provide volunteer opportunities, or they can connect you with social service organizations. There's my son has had a number of volunteer opportunities because of friends of our SSPs over time. And that makes for a large social network that has really increased not just his social network, but the social network for the whole family, which provides family support as well, which is truly an important piece of the whole picture. So I think that also is great. So Gabe?
More benefits. Familiarity of staff, same people all the time, creating a schedule that works for participant and family, flexible scheduling if choose to meet outcomes. Excuse me.
So essentially, what I'm saying here is that you choose the staff, and so it's the same people coming all the time. Sometimes when you use other methods of service delivery, you don't always have the same people coming all the time. And you can create a schedule that works for the participant, for the family, for the SSP. And then you also can do flexibility of scheduling. So if your loved one perhaps doesn't like to get up at 7 a.m, and that's what would happen if they were in a program, maybe a community participation supports or something along those lines, maybe they don't have to get up and staff doesn't have to come in until 10. It depends on the situation. So you have that flexibility. That's another positive. And I think the most important thing in a lot of ways is that we realize that participant-directed supports is more than just services. It is, the people we love, the friendships we have, the places we like to go, the things we like to do, all of those pieces. Just so you know, it's the picture there on the left. That's Gabe's wedding picture, that is my son Billy in the middle. And here on the right is one of our advisors' children at Scout Camp, doing what he absolutely loves to do. So it's, the people we love, the activities we love to do, and the, activities we're in. So the picture in the middle, I do want to make a community, statement here. My guys, we love to go to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins games. And when you talk about making community, when you talk about natural supports, it's not just, your family, your immediate family and your friends. We have an usher at the arena who has taken our whole family under his wing. And when we show up at the games, he always has a piece of Billy's favorite candy and a piece of Billy's friend's favorite candy. And he always greets them. He always greets us. He makes sure that, Billy's not carrying too much stuff when he goes down the steps. He keeps an eye out when, everybody goes to the bathroom, that we all come back at the same time to make sure nobody has wandered off. Just the little things. And it makes such a difference. We feel welcomed and wanted at the games. So that's community. That's that networking. And that's part of that participant, directed services that we can go, that sometimes, he goes with staff people, and he's still part of that networking. It's so important. Gabe?
True or false? Waiting for a click. Thank you. Participant direction, south direction is only available in select parts of the state. Drum roll, please. False. And why is that? Participant direction is available in all of PA.
So sometimes we hear stories that participant direction is not available in all of Pennsylvania yet. That is not true. It is available in the entire state. So if you talk to your supports coordinator and your supports coordinator doesn't know enough about it or is not comfortable with it, you can always reach out to the PA Family Network, and we can help talk you through it or help you find the support you need to take that next step. We cannot authorize it. I don't mean to intimate that in any way, shape, or form, but we can certainly help you find the resources that you can provide to help take those next steps.
True or false? You can only self-direct if you have friends and family to hire. Drum roll, please. False. Friends and family can be a great resource for referrals, but you can recruit and hire SSPs from anywhere to work for or with your loved one. Remember, don't be afraid to ask questions. Services are only one part of an everyday life. That is true. Life course framework and tools can help us think, plan, and support your loved one in new ways.
Absolutely true.
I know. Amen, sister.
So remember that the PA Family Network can help you find the resources and the information that you might need to help start this journey, or to look into it and decide if maybe this is the journey that you even want to take. We were running behind and now we're ahead. So options, opportunities, choice, and control, participant direction. So I think the important thing to remember about participant direction is that it comes with a lot of responsibilities. It's never an easy choice. And I think one of the things that you will hear a lot of times from families is, well, I'm going to go with vendor fiscal because you can pay your staff more. And there is a small difference in pay, but there's also a big difference in responsibility. And I think making the choice with participant direction, you've got that person-centered plan and you've put everything in that ISP. You've taken that person-centered plan and you've created that vision. And you've put all of it in that ISP, and you've got a really good ISP, and you've connected with your supports coordinator. They've got everything in there. It shows those needs. You've figured out what can be self-directed, and you've decided to direct services yourself. I think the next important decision is, how much time do you want to spend doing participant direction? And how much effort do you want to put into this on a regular basis? And that's just being an honest, straightforward individual. I think there's a lot to look into it. I do see there's a couple of people who did not get it, and did not get the PowerPoint. I will make sure that you get that. And I know both of you, so I can send both of you the PowerPoint. That's not a problem. I don't mind doing that at all. And I want to be upfront and honest. There is work involved, but it is so worth it. It is the creativity, the opportunity to really see an individual achieve the vision that they have for their life is indescribable. And I just love that part of what I do. So I hope that everybody has that opportunity. I want to let you know that I love this picture. Anybody else love this picture?
I love this picture.
So Wednesday the 20th, we do have another workshop coming up. This one is Finding Answers and Support. This is going to be basically it's going to be 2 hours where I am taking most of the questions or comments that came from the other workshops and just doing little segments of Q&A. So I think that will be of benefit to a lot of people. Sort of what's the difference between a supports coordinator and a supports broker? Those kinds of questions that kept coming up. So I think this will be a really interesting workshop for a lot of people. I'm hoping you'll all join us. And I'm hoping that you'll stay on for a few more minutes. I talked really fast because I was afraid I was going to run you all too late. And now we're finishing a little early. And I do apologize for the speed. Early. The speed talking. So please help us by taking the poll. Gabriel, can you run the poll?
I can't. You can.
I can. All right. Let me see if I can.
Because I'm not co-host.
All right. There we go.
Oh, I can participate if I want to.
Well, don't.
Oh.
I'm really grateful for all of you being on here tonight. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I think this is a way for a lot of our loved ones and a lot of individuals who really are very independent to truthfully find their way to an everyday life and control their own services. I just think we need to find better ways of getting the information out there. So thank you all for participating. And I think we are done.
Winner.
So thank you. And I will say you'll see that there are 3 more slides. Also, if anybody's interested in working with an advisor, the number is on here, 1-844-PA-FAMILY. But we do have, just as a reminder, we do have advisor team mentoring available, which is something fairly new that we've been working with, which is a peer-to-peer program where a participant and their family member or surrogate chosen individual do mentoring with a PA family advisor and a PA family advisor with IDD. And we've been using this in a number of situations, especially in a situation where perhaps the participant and their family member are not 100% in agreement about perhaps next steps, or there's some hesitancy about the actuality of a vision, those kinds of things. And we have found it to be very, very useful tool. And our other option is team mentoring, where we're part of a team and we enjoy participating in those bigger team meetings when possible to help bring some creativity and ideas to the table. So please, consider us for those situations. Additionally, I did include resources for those ISPs where I took those pictures of the ISP. So there's your individual support plan and then the Spanish version as well for those who might need it. And these are great resources to have, keep on your desktop to review prior to your ISP meeting and to see what you might need in the future. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And I really appreciate everybody being part of this today.
Thank you all very much.